Hey guys, it's Jamie, and today's project is stiff slab constructed vases. I'm going to be showing you two, and they're made from basic shapes. As you can see, I had just folded a piece of paper in half and cut this curve here to reveal this shape. So that'll be the shape of one of the vases. And then the other one is going to be a half of a sphere, and that's a 6-inch sphere. Over here, I've already rolled out a slab and I've cut basic shapes into here. So I'll be showing you how I use those in the vases as we go along. First thing I'm going to talk about is the texture. So this piece right here is part of a cement wall that is no longer in existence. It was in our parking lot and they tore it down to put a new big high rise in. Anyway, I was intrigued by the texture, so I just bought a big slab out there and rolled it in there, and now this is what I have. So I'm going to make one vase with the texture from a cement wall, and then the other one is, this is from a purchase. This is a fondant mat, and it's kind of hard to tell, but I'll have a close-up once I've pressed into here the clay. First step is always to put in some cornstarch where you're going to roll. Now these slabs are a wee bit thicker than what I normally do. These are 3/8, and I've done that because I know they're going to thin when I've put them on here. Ooh, yeah, look at that. Super cool. Sometimes it's better to use this portion of your pony roller to really get in the crevices. Next up is this fondant mat. This is a Wilton duster for those joining me for the first time. I've prepared the slab also. I didn't mention this earlier, but I did smooth it down with a rib, so there's no canvas texture showing. Take a look at that. Isn't that awesome? So I'm going to put these slabs aside and actually put them outside and let them firm up. Hopefully in a half hour, 45 minutes in this warm California sun, they'll be ready to go. The next piece here is for my smaller vase. It's kind of the side wall, and I like to do an indentation on that. So I'm going to, this is a little bit thicker than I like, so I'm just gonna roll it thinner because it was taken from that slab that I like to keep a little bit bigger. That's great. So this piece of slab is also going to be part of the bottom of the foot. Now I've already done my measurements, so I know that I need 15 inches total, 6 of which are going to be for the foot. So I'm just going to take the 6 foot, let's see what I have here now. Oh, it's out to 20. So I'm just going to take 7 of it off right now and put that to the side. And this portion I will press into foam to create a crease. But before that I do that, I'm going to cut it to the size I want. Oftentimes I'll use found items in my studio for the width of things. This is a small vase. I find that this width for this ruler is great. So I'm just going to lay that on there. So I'm not cutting the exact size I need. I know I'm going to need 9 inches, but at this point, I'm just going to cut off the excess once I've wrapped it around my form. I happen to have a 2x2 handy right now, and incidentally, it looks like it's the same size width as the 2x2, which is great. Anyway, I'm going to press it on the corner. So you can use any item that has a right angle here of 90 degrees to press in. So I'm just going to check it out to make sure it's at the halfway mark. All right, once I am confident, press. This is intended to go around the circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay out the circle and kind of get it into that shape. Now I'm going to let everything set up. So I'll be back when I have stiff slabs. All right, so while things are outside setting up, I'm going to talk about how to make the neck of the vase. This is just some scraps left over from my earlier cuttings. So what I'm going to do is spray them down. So a lot of times my students will just crunch up their stuff and stick it back in their bag, and I'm like, no, don't crunch it up yet. Spray it first, then put it back, because you take a lot of moisture out of the clay when you're rolling it through the slab roller. So this is a piece of fresh clay still, and I'm going to make the neck of the vase for both, actually, from this. You don't need much. Once again, I'm making it thinner, and I'm using my handy right angle to cut strips. I like to use dowels to create this. If you don't have dowels, you can use, maybe if you have like a wooden spoon or some other round object, approximately, you know, these sizes, you can use that instead. So for this one, I'm just going to roll it around here. I'm going to cut it so that it's straight. And then I'm just going to push it down to make a beveled edge. And then I'm going to roll it over the other piece and cut it here. I'm then going to push it in and smooth it together. So this is fresh clay. I really don't need to slip and score. I can also roll it a little bit to compress. Another thing you can do too is if you want it bigger, just keep rolling, and then this loosens from the dowel. I'm twisting it to loosen it, and then I'm just gonna bang it on the surface here to get a flat edge. And once you have that, you can just take it off, and you can smooth out that inside seam. And then for the next step, you're going to need a bit of water just to get your finger wet, and then just start going around the sides and pushing out. So as you can see, it's starting to get a little wonky here, and what I do at this point is I take a little round. So I either have a little mold like that. You can also take a ball. This one's a little big. I like this one. And put it on a ball. And then you can tend to the back side of the vase neck. I'm just going to let it sit like that for a minute until I have the other one ready to go. Now for this other one, it's a much smaller vase, so I'm going to use a smaller dowel. Don't worry if it looks like it's becoming lopsided. There's going to be opportunity to straighten things out, shave things down if you need to. Like here, this point, there's a little point right here, so I'm just going to shave that off later on. I'm not going to worry about it right yet. All right, so now we're done with the necks. So now we're just still waiting on the rest of the slab. So I'm back, and my pieces are a little bit under soft leather hard. So, you know, they're not wobbly or anything like that, but they still have a little give in them. I'm going to go ahead and cut out now because it's a little bit easier to join them. If this was a bigger vase, I would wait a little bit longer, but since it's so small, I'm going to go ahead and go for it. So I'm just putting my template on here and cutting. And just in case there's any irregularities in this, I'm going to flip it this direction when I bring it over to this one. So this I'm going to revive by just spraying it down with water and putting it in a plastic bag when I'm done here. Wow, these are really cool looking. Love it. So my next step is to bevel out the edges. So to make that a little easier, I'm going to get a banding wheel. I'm also taking the opportunity to score the edges and apply some slip. I love the idea of this, but grog often gets stuck in there. I guess I could cut it, make it thicker or open more. So here's a little trick I heard about ages ago, and I've done it a few times. And that is to put a coil in place before you join it. Now I'm just pushing out to give it the curve that I want. Now inside I have that coil, and what I'm going to do is take a little ball tool that I have and just start pushing it into the seam. So I'm now that I have it in there, I'm just going to push a little bit to make it a little bit wider, and then I'm going to use my hands to go in there and push out. I don't want it collapsing. I want to have it look a little bit more full. And that's the beauty of these semi-soft stiff slabs, or semi-hard I should say. They still have a little pull on them. So in case you're wondering, this is for crepes. I got it at Sur La Table. Another tool that you can use is a wooden spoon if you feel like you want to use that to push out. I just want to create a little bit more fullness. All right, so when you're happy with it, you can do the next step, which is to put the bottom on. This is my slab from before where I was cutting out all the pieces. So I left a big chunk. I'm going to thin it down a little bit. Now what I could do is if I wanted to make this a permanent pattern, I could cut this out and trace it on paper. And then I would have my foot. I'm just moving it back and forth a little bit to make sure it's really on there. Now I'm going to roll around the edges to make sure it's really on there. Okay, one of the finishing touches I may do here is just roll a bevel around it. Nice. You remember this little guy here? And what I'm going to have to do with this thing is kind of cut a V into it a little bit. So first off, I need to find the center. So I'm going to do that first. I get 16 and 8 is the center. Now I'm going to cut off part of that. Now let's say you put on the bottom without, pushing out and making the walls more full here. This is an opportunity where you can stick something in here and then kind of push out a little bit if you wanted to. So now I'm going to place this on here, and to make it fit, I'm going to have to see this curve here. It's about 1/4 of an inch. So that means I need to cut like into round here and kind of mimic this curve over on this side. So I'm just going to eyeball it. Once I have that curve, I'm going to go to the bottom of that and just cut across. And I'm going to cut again on that side. All right, I like that. Now it's slip and score. I'm just going to put the slightest of little coils on the inside. So I'm putting it into an O ahead of time. So I'm just getting the excess slip off the side here. And now I'm just going to make a definition of the line that goes around here. Actually, this has given me an idea. I could create a little orb with a cork on it that could go on there. That might be kind of cool. So now that I'm done with these scraps here, these are pretty well set up. So as I mentioned before, I like to spray them and put them back in the bag. So in the cases like this one that's really dry, I will dunk them in water completely and then put them back into the bag. All right, so one vase down, one to go. Let's get on to the next one. This is such a delicate pattern, and it's great that it's set up now, so I don't have to worry too much about touching it and handling it. It's going to keep, I'm not going to distort any of the flowers that are on here. So I'm using a 6-inch round for this one. So now I'm just going to look on here to see where do I want to cut. I do like this flower here and this one, so maybe I will go like this and cut. And this one here. So you remember this little fella that I put into shape? These strips tend to dry out faster than these, so just keep your eye on these guys more so than these. The other thing too is this has a little bit of a raised part here, and I could have beveled that before I put it out to firm up, but then those little beveled edges just get so brittle. So I prefer to do this, is just to take it down with a lathe. Not lathe, whatever these things are called. I'll have the right name for it in the video. There, you can see that that's nice and flat now. What's great about this, these shavings, they can become slip for you. Just marking my cut line. So I'm leaning the rib up against this and creating a line. Now, similar to the other form, you may want to go in and address the coil here now. What I'm doing is, these forms tend to sink in a little bit, so I'm just using my finger to push out before putting the bottom on. I'm just using a chopstick now to really get in the groove. So it's shaping up, starting to look pretty cute. What's left is to put the bottom on and then to put some trim and the neck. So for the trim, I'm going to use fresh clay. I'm going to need to roll that out, so I'll be back with you when I have that done. Hey, I'm back, and I have my bottom from before, so this has been setting up. It wasn't setting up outside, so it's not as firm as this is, but that's okay. And then I just cut 2 fresh slabs here, and I'm softening the edges. And what I'm going to do now is attach. So same thing as before, I need to score. So one of the things that I did on my original version of this is I made this be a textured strip. But I find that I really like the single line with no texture, because this is so textureful. So if that's a word, that's not really a word. But anyway, I prefer it like that. The other thing that I'm doing differently here is I stretched this around to go at the bottom here. I found that this was a super highway for glaze to run. So I'm putting a little stop point in the glaze for that. So you can take a look before you put the bottom on whether or not this is collapsed inward, and then just push out again if it has. And just like the other one, I need to now put this into the middle of it. Now before I do that, I'm gonna, that point I showed you earlier, I'm just gonna take this and round it out. Ready to go on. Now this is a little bit different from the other one. The other one I had to create a notch for it to go in, and this is the reverse. So now I have to make this, the ends that touch here, I guess it's the same. I'm making a notch, but instead of being on this side, it's going to be on this side, right? So I want to match the curve. So I'm going to get my needle tool or knife, and I'm going to just cut into it. I make a triangle first. All right, and then I'm going to just cut across and do the same. So don't worry if it's not 100%, because you can fill it in with the little coils. So I feel like that works. Unlike the other one, I didn't put a bevel on this because I wanted the trim to match this line. One of the things that you might have to do when you're blending lines is do a score on them in different directions and then smooth over with your finger. Okay, it looks like this is a little shy there. It's short. So I'm going to take some fresh clay and put it on there. I just realized that I could have just brought the bottom out to be thick longer, so then I wouldn't have to put this coil down here as a stopgap. So I think what I'm going to do is to take that out. So there's still some refinement that needs to be done. At this point, this is fresh clay here, and I feel like when I'm handling it, I'm dinging it. So I'm going to wait for that to catch up to the rest of the clay bodies. Now, in order for these all to become the same consistency, you have to put them under plastic. So please note there's plastic on the bottom, and then there's going to be plastic all around. So once this has maybe set up for a day, I will come back and, just do some minor touch-ups. But that's it for my stiff slabs. I hope you enjoyed this, and catch you next time. Thanks a lot.